Hello, everyone, and welcome to CodeCast by STL Tech Talk, where we're going to bring you the content you want and need: instructional, informative, unique, and insightful commentary on programming, code, and technology. My name is JJ Hammond. I'm joined tonight by two coding experts. Up first, he is a Microsoft MVP, a Microsoft Patterns and Practices Champion, Director of Technology for INETA, co-leader of the Boise.NET Developers User Group, board member of the Boise Code Camp, speaker, trainer, author, original creator of the WPF Toolkit. He is a multi-recipient of the Microsoft Community Contributor Award and can be found speaking at a variety of user groups and code camps around this nation. Mr. Fantastic's cooler brother, Brian Lagunas. Hello and welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, thanks for the great introduction. I love that. Can I borrow that? That's pretty nice.
You can have it. It's yours.
Thanks. I think I'll take that. And thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Brian, thank you so much for taking out the time. This is a kind of a special holiday episode, obviously, because, you know, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's out there, and happy Thanksgiving to you, and thank you to you and your family for giving us for the next hour or so.
Oh, wait, that's tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break.
Oh my God!
I was gonna wait until during the show to say it because I thought it would be a little bit easier on you because you can't really run anywhere. You're in Boise, for God's sakes. No, I'm just messing with you. So, but this show is not complete without my fellow co-hosts striving to bring development knowledges to the masses, and has spent the last 20 years architecting and implementing highly scalable ASP.NET applications. Our very own Gus Emery. Hello, Gus, and welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, JJ. Thanks so much. It's been a little while since we gotten together, but last time we did the show, we were actually sitting next to each other, which this is a little different.
It is. It's weird. I so preferred the other way. We just need to get you a private jet, fly you down here every Wednesday for the show, and call it good.
Let's make like 10 million, and we can do that.
Yeah, totally.
And I want to point out something. All of us have beards.
We do.
Is there a reason for that, or is it just for style?
No, there's a reason. Obviously, it's Movember, or it's prostate cancer awareness. For everybody out there. So there's actually links that you can find on our previous show that will take you to charities that we talked about on our last show, Gus, where people can donate for the research for prostate cancers and cancer in general.
And men's health in general.
And men's health in general, absolutely.
Well, normally I just say I'm lazy, but that sounds so much better.
Right. Whoa. It's one of those things, right, where you're just like, I am benefiting, and I didn't have to do anything to garnish the benefit of this. So that's awesome. Everybody, you can interact with the show by sending us feedback to contact@stltechtalk.com, and the best way, I would say, is on Twitter, which is #CodeCast or @CodeCastSTL. And don't forget, everybody, to subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to all of our shows. Visit stltechtalk.com for more general tech news from around the nation and from our local stuff from St. Louis. So, again, everybody, thank you. Special thank yous go out to all of our fans who continue to spread the good word about what we're doing here, requiring guests and all that stuff, and it's just been phenomenal. So thank you so much. And also, thank you again to stlouisdaisy.net. I had a wonderful time when I was there. Gus, we just all had a really great time. And also, I want to thank the sponsors of the show, Inertia Software, creating cutting-edge, highly scalable Microsoft technological solutions to the energy industry. Go to inertia-software.com. And I want to thank Tech Systems. So you want to advance your IT career, but you don't want to submit your resume to hundreds of online job boards in the hopes of finding your next job? Your solution is simple. Tech Systems is the leading IT staffing provider in the U.S. and is ready to be your career partner. Their goal is to help you achieve your personal and professional goals. Contact a local recruiter today at techsystems.com/St. Louis, and that's STLOUIS. And that's Tech Systems, teksystems.com/St. Louis. So without further ado, let's kick off the show with the very first question, Brian. Hey, what got you into programming, and what got you into technology?
Actually, that's an interesting long story that I can try to make really short. Basically, I'm kind of self-taught in the beginning. I was Army infantry for a long time, and what I did with my big signing bonus when I joined the Army is I bought this massive gateway computer with a full 512 megabytes of RAM. I mean, this thing was a beast bag. It cost like $5,000 back then. And then whenever I wasn't being deployed, I was teaching myself 3D animation. I don't know if you've heard of 3D Studio Max and Maya, things like that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I started playing around with that, and then you know, I was injured in the line of duty, medically discharged. Then I rehabilitated for about a year. Then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do the cop thing. So then I was a cop for a while.
Sure, because you know.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Doesn't all military go into the police force at first? Seems like that, anyway.
Especially for infantry.
I had a ridiculous amount of job offers when I get out. They were like, "Come on in." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that."
Yeah, and I got all kinds of stories about that. We can talk about another day. You'd be surprised what gets on the force nowadays. But anyways.
No, I wouldn't. I'm from St. Louis. No, I wouldn't. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so through this whole time, you know, I'm still kind of playing with computers and you know, animation, things like that. And then I finally say, you know what, I'm sick of this cop thing. It kind of sucks.
Sure.
So I went to school, started getting a degree in 3D animation. About 2 years into it, I discovered programming because I had to kind of write my own little physics engine inside of 3D Studio Max, and it was kind of cool. And then I changed my degree into software engineering, and then that's just kind of where it took off from there.
Wow, that's cool. Really cool. That's really cool trajectory, and similar. So I know I know going through the you know, in the service, and then you know, it's really interesting that you know there are so many really good programmers and really good technicians, if you will, and engineers and stuff that started out in the service. I found that there is a higher level of proclivity to electronics. I don't know if that's just because it's somewhat solitary in nature, and it gave me at least a way to not have to deal with people as much, because I know one of my biggest struggles was dealing with people again, right? Like my people skills were awful for a long time.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I'm surprised I met my wife when I did, because
yeah.
It's hard to become a civilian again. It really is.
Yeah, it's awful. In a way that, I'm not saying that you know civilians are ridiculous, but I'm just saying that from my point of view, it was hard to communicate, and thank God I had my wife to help me with that transition. So I can definitely empathize and understand where you're coming from. But that's really cool. It's a neat trajectory, and that's a really great story, I'm sure. Like you said, on another show, we could maybe talk about that in depth a little bit more. So what drove you to going down this path? I mean, obviously we said it in your introduction, but what got you into the Microsoft kind of ecosystem, or the Microsoft technologies?
Well, I actually had two influential people in my life that contributed to where I am tonight. His name's Scott Nichols. He's not a big, huge community guy, known, you know, nationwide or anything, but he's a local guy. Back when I was building enterprise software, he was one of my mentors. Really heavy on architecture, taught me a lot about building massive enterprise apps. You know, different approaches. I mean, a true solutions architect. You know, in the enterprise. So I got a lot of my skills and knowledge from him. And then the one that really took me over the edge was David Starr. He was a huge influence in my community contributions, and those two people I really look up to even today, and I really appreciate what they've done to get me where I am, because everyone has that support system, and I'm here because of them.
Oh, that's really cool. So when you were writing the little physics engine inside of 3D Studio, what language was that in?
You know, that was 16 years ago, 15 years ago.
It would be like yesterday. Come on.
I don't even remember. It was some proprietary thing, if I remember. It wasn't easy. It was back in like 97. I mean, it was a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. It probably was. I was just wondering if you remembered if it was an actual language or.
I don't remember. I just remember doing something in it, and that you know, did the spark. Like, oh, this is really cool.
Oh, that's cool. No, that is actually cool.
Totally.
Yeah, that's. Oh, go ahead, JJ.
No, I was just gonna say. Well, let's kind of get into. Okay, so you're building out structures, you're doing stuff, you're starting to make a name for yourself, and then tell us what it was like for you to go over into, like I said, to get more involved with WPF and that stuff.
Yeah, the new stuff.
Well, I've been dealing with WPF ever since it came out, like version 1 in 2006, I think is when it first came out, and it was really, really basic, and all the way through. I mean, I've just lived it since 2006, really. Mainly, I started with when I was in the enterprise. That's all we did was WPF apps, and so my career just kind of progressed. I've been in the WPF camp for a long time now. Don't do much with Windows 8 because honestly, as it sits now, I'm not really impressed with it, and none of my customers care about it right now. Mm-hmm. But they may change. I don't know. We'll see what when Windows 10 releases and build comes around, what they announce. Hopefully, I'm hoping that they are trying to create some one XAML, and they're we'll see what happens. But right now, I'm not real impressed with the new Windows 8 stuff, and the Windows Phone stuff is not important to me right now. So WPF is still where I make my money.
Well, the enterprise is still sitting on Windows 7 if they're lucky, right? I mean, even a lot of people are still sitting on Windows 98 even though it's not supported. And
oh my God, dude! I went into one of the largest banks in the world in London, and they're running XP.
Oh, jeez. Ooh.
That's scary.
Yeah.
So I think Windows 7 is fairly stable at this point, and I think a lot of people can hang their hats on it, right? Kind of like they did with XP or anything else.
Right, and one of the hard things for the enterprise is there's no real benefit to upgrade to Windows 8 for them.
No, there's zero as far as
there's zero. I mean, there's nothing. So they're going to move even slower to Windows 8.
Yeah, unless Windows 10 has something phenomenal that buys them something to upgrade, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Security would even be enough, but we're not even seeing a difference in that as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a Windows MVP, so I'm not positive. So somebody can flame me later on that if they want to, but the point still is that I don't think there's anything there that would drive a large business to go to Windows 8 unless the people are actually utilizing it right now. Everything is still WinForm or WPF or web, end of story, done, right? I mean,
completely agree with you.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yep.
At least at this point. So tell me, what are we talking about tonight, Brian? What are your specialties right now? What are you speaking about?
Well, I got my fingers in a lot of pots. I've been playing a lot with Unity lately. I've been playing with Xamarin. I'm still in WPF. I'm heavily involved in the Prism framework for Microsoft Patterns and Practices team. Yeah, I can talk about all kinds of cool stuff.
Well, let's do this first and foremost. What is Unity?
Okay, so Unity is not like the dependency injection container, if that's what you're thinking. Anyone listening, I'm not talking about a version of control. When I say Unity, I'm talking about the Unity game engine, unity3d.com. Basically, it's a free game engine that allows you to write cross-platform games basically on top of Mono, and it could be anything, any platform: iOS, Android, Windows Store, Xbox, PlayStation. If you still have a BlackBerry, you can do BlackBerry. So yeah, it's a true cross-platform game development, and you can do 2D or 3D games. It's really cool. It's all drag and drop.
And Mono is the basis for what is now Xamarin, right? Is that how it came out, or is it kind of
yeah
per se? Okay. So how easy? So what language are we writing in then? Is this actually its own language, or are we using what type of syntax?
So when you do scripting inside of Unity, you can use C#, you can use JavaScript, and then you can use this thing called BooScript, which don't ever use that. It's old proprietary. It's just don't mess with it. No one does BooScript anymore. If you do, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's that good, huh?
Yeah, if you've never heard of it, probably not worth your time.
Yeah, so the two would be JavaScript and C#, very similar languages, right? Slightly different functionality, but similar in syntax. So how easy is it to learn Unity?
It's extremely easy, and you can build a pretty interactive game without any code whatsoever. I mean, we can do it in 5 minutes, can create a game from scratch. And if we wanted to start adding some interactions in there, we could easily add some simple interactions. I mean, it's not hard at all.
Awesome. And the other thing we're going to be talking about tonight, just for our listeners, is Prism. So we can get into that too, and what it is in just a second. So before the show started, you had Visual Studio pulled up. Now, walk us through a little bit on what we're going to be talking about as far as demo tonight.
Well, I mean, I can demo. We can write a quick little game in Unity. Check out some Unity stuff for the game devs or the guys interested in even getting started in game dev. We keep it basic, keep it simple, just to kind of show how easy it really is. Because when I tell people how easy it is, they don't believe me. I have to literally show them. And as an example, I did a tech ed a speaker idle, and they have a 5-minute 5-minute time limit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I literally wrote a game in less than 5 minutes, explaining what I was doing throughout it. That's how
awesome.
quickly you can do something with Unity.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then later on, for the real techies, the guys who really care about patterns and architecture and writing code, we can check out Prism and kind of see how to get started with it and talk about what it is and what it's not.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Let's do that. Let's do both. That sounds great.
We can
Absolutely.
do both.
Yep.
Sure. Why don't
Okay.
you give us a 5-minute demo of Unity?
Yeah, I can do that. So I'm just going to start sharing my... So I'm new to this Google Hangout, so it's going to take me a second to figure out this screen share stuff. Oh, okay. That's easy. All right, can you see my flowers?
Yep.
We can see your flowers.
Awesome. You know what? I'm not a big background image guy. I just kind of keep the default. I just never update it. Anyways, I already have Unity installed, so I'm just going to click this little Unity button down here. And it looks like my Pro license expired. So it should at least let me continue without being Pro. If not, we'll just jump to... yeah, we'll activate the free version. Oh my gosh.
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. And I use so many different passwords.
Software as a service.
I don't remember which ones I use for what. Oh, cool. That was it.
That worked.
All right, so we're just going to go ahead and create a new project. I don't care what it's called. So I'm just going to keep the default name. And when you get this window here, you're going to see this import following packages. Do not check any of these. Okay, you only want to add what you're going to use when you create a game. And if you click all these, it's going to add all of this, all these packages, all these resources to your project, which get compiled in and add to the size of your game. And if you're installing on mobile, that really matters. So just uncheck everything and only add as you need. I'm going to set up for a 3D game, but you can choose 2D if you want. I'm just going to hit Create. We're going to let Unity do its thinking. I'm going to skip the newer version for now. Okay, so we have this cool little interface here. Now, I'll go through it really quick because sometimes the interface doesn't make a lot of sense. Right here, this pane on the left-hand side, this is your scene view. You can kind of see me with my mouse in it, right?
Yep.
This is your scene view. You can zoom in, zoom out. This is where you do all of your positioning, where you drag things around. This is where you're designing your game, right? So underneath that is your game view. Right below the scene view is your game view. This is where you actually get to preview your game and play your game as you develop it, which is pretty cool.
That is cool, yeah.
Okay, on the right-hand side, on the right of the scene view, we have our hierarchy. Now this basically represents all the objects in your scene. And this could be a parent-child relationship, so you can group things together, and things like that. Basically, I can select something in this hierarchy, and you can see it select inside of the scene. So if I were to create a game object, let's say I'm going to create a sphere or a cube, I can select this cube and use these tools to move it around, right? And of course, we're in 3D space, so we have 3 axes, the X, Y, and Z. Okay, so I can rotate, have all these controls to do scaling, right? But this is where I play around with my objects and get them just how I want them. right? So I'm going to delete that. Actually, let me put that back in there because I'm going to use this cube to demonstrate our inspector to the right. So if you're a Visual Studio guy, you know all about the property inspector, right? The property grid. This is basically all the inspector is in Unity. It shows all the properties for an object, and as you manipulate them, you see them happen in real time in your scene view, right? So I am changing the values of the X position on the transform, and it's moving my my object around on that axis. And I want to mention that everything you see in your inspector is basically a component. It's a script. Everything uses scripts. Okay, and we'll if we get that far, if we need to get that far, we can talk about it. Otherwise, just keep in mind that everything over here is in script, and as you add new scripts, this is where they go.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, and now you have to the left of this, just under your hierarchy, you have your project. Now this tab will contain all your assets as they exist on disk. Okay, so if I were to right-click this assets folder, show in Explorer, this is the assets folder on disk, on my hard drive. So if I were to add a new folder, right, and I call it scenes, I show this in Explorer and go into the assets folder, there's the scenes folder I just created. So anything you had here is going to be included in your game, and it's as it exists on disks. Okay? So having said that, let's take a look at how easy it is to get started building a game without writing any freaking code whatsoever. So I was thinking we would write a cool little like first-person exploratory game. You know, we'll have some trees, mountains, grass, maybe some water. We'll throw a little first-person camera down there, have them run around and jump up and down. How's that sound?
That sounds awesome.
Okay, so we're going to start by creating a new terrain. And this ships, everything I'm showing you is free and ships with Unity. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because this thing's actually really huge. Now I'm going to select this terrain, and I'm going to come over to my inspector, and you're going to see this terrain script. And on this terrain script, you can see I have a whole bunch of icons. I have like these mountains with an up, right? Well, you can kind of guess that means, hey, I'm going to raise or lower the terrain. So I'm going to click that. You can change your brush sizes, whatever you want to do. I'll zoom in a little bit more. And then I'll just go throw up some mountains, right? Doesn't matter. Just paint them in there. I'm just clicking and holding my mouse. That's all I'm doing. Okay, that's kind of cool, but they're kind of plain looking. I want to add some type of texture to them. All right, so what I want to do is I want to click this little paintbrush, but the problem is we don't have any assets in this scene. We don't have any assets in our game yet. So we have a couple options. We can go to the asset store and buy assets or download assets for free, and let me just show you what that looks like. So if I go to Unity3D.com, I just click on the asset store, and it's going to load the asset store. And I can come in here and I can search for things. I don't know, like monster, right? If you wanted to add a monster to your scene, I'm looking for a model that looks like a monster. You can do that, and I can buy, or they have free monsters you can use. You have all these models and these resources you can use for free or pay for in your game. Now, I mention this because I want to make the distinction that Unity is not a 3D modeling app. You do not model 3D objects inside of Unity.
Okay.
Think of Unity as more of a composition IDE. You're composing your game. You're taking the assets that you've either created yourself in 3D Studio Max, Maya, and there's a free one out there called, oh, what is it? I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's a free modeling tool out there, and it kills me. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
maybe I will try to do some search and figure that out for us.
Yeah, I'll think of it when we finish talking. I'll think of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then you would import those assets into your game. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I can right-click and say Import Package, and these packages, you know, that checkbox we saw at the very beginning when we're creating the game. Mm-hmm. These are the packages that ship with Unity. Now the ones I'm going to import are the terrain assets. So I'm going to go ahead and just suck these in. Now you're going to see I get this big list of assets. Now remember what I said, when you're writing a real game, you're going to only bring in what you use. You know, for this demo we're just going to bring in everything, but in a real game you would not do that. You would actually pick and choose the things you want to use. Every file you add is going to add to the size and performance impact on your game, battery life, all that stuff has to be considered. So now I can add a texture because I added those assets. I actually have textures to choose from, like this grass and rock texture. Okay, so we'll add that. And it kind of looks like crap at first, right? You look like, man, that looks like crap. But as you zoom in, it looks a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it starts to look better as you zoom in. As you zoom out, it looks like crap. So when you're designing, Unity does some things to the IDE to keep it responsive, and I'll show you a really good example of that here in a minute.
Well, and to be fair, when you zoom, when you go out from the world, I mean, things kind of come together. You know what I mean? It like if you're doing in real life, when you're going from like say Google Earth view or whatever, it's not going to look awesome the further back you go, so to speak.
Right. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect example. Okay. So that's pretty cool. But what else can we do? Well, let's throw some trees in there. Let's add a tree. We have a palm. Now this palm tree is the one that came in with our other assets. If you wanted a fig, you'd go find a fig or whatever you wanted to use and add that. So now that I have my palm selected, you see I have all these settings I can mess with, but we're just going to keep it default for now. And pow, 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 pow. That's all it takes. Boom, 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 right? I got my forest right there. Boom. Done.
Love it.
I just had to paint it on. Okay, trees are cool. What else can we do? Well, we can do grass, right? So let's click this little flower. We're going to edit our details. We have to add a grass texture. Detail texture, well, we're going to click this little button, and we'll just pick a grass. That'll work for now. Now, here we go, just like trees. Pow, 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 pow. Oh, wait a minute. Is this broken? What the hell, Brian? What a piece of crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. Remember what I was saying about the IDE that does things for you?
Mm-hmm.
So I just sat here clicking my mouse back and forth a million times thinking, dang freaking grass it's at painting. Well, let's just zoom in. Holy crap, I painted too much grass.
I love that. That's awesome.
Right? So you got to really pay attention on what you're doing. And once you learn these little tricks, you'll get better at creating your terrains to where you're not sitting there, with your furious mouse button going back and forth trying to get it to work. It's working. You just have to zoom in to see the details. Because as I zoom out, all the grass disappears. Right? So that's pretty cool. It's kind of dark, so I'm going to add a light. There's all kinds of different lights. I'm going to add a directional light, and all it does is it tells you a light source is going to come in at a certain direction, right? Kind of like the sun. So I added a light. Pretty cool. Now let's add, how about our first person running around? Want to do that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, luckily we get one of those for free too. We're going to import the character controller. Now I'm going to bring in everything, but once again, only bring in what you need. Now this package comes with two different types of characters. It comes with a 3D character, and it comes with a first-person character. We only care about the first person in this demo, but you can see them listed here: first person, third person. I'm just going to drag my first person up here, and then bring them in. I'm just going to drag them. Okay, now you can see my bottom camera.
Oh, nice.
Right? Now you can see that game view actually makes a little sense, because before we were using this main camera and it wasn't positioned. We just left it where it was at default, but we don't need it anymore, so I'm going to delete it. Okay, now let's play. I'm just going to hit this play button and we're going to play the game right here.
Oh, nice.
And now I'm using my WASD X keys and my space bar. I can jump around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at the grass, it animates for me.
Nice.
I don't do anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I did all that and had to write any code. Now, I do want to point something out for everyone who uses Unity, and maybe you are an experienced user and this is too basic for you. I want to show you a little trick for people just getting started. It's preferences. I'm going to go back to the default colors right quick because I want to demonstrate something. Let's say I'm testing the game. Right? I'm in demo mode, but I decide I want to start throwing in some objects. Like let's throw a cube in here. Right? Here's my cube. Let's throw whatever. Doesn't matter. But I'm spending all this time and effort, messing with these objects, getting my game just right. I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. Like, oh, crap, I'm playing my game. Pay attention to what happens to those objects. So I'm going to stop it, okay? What happened?
They're gone.
They're gone. They disappeared. Right? I learned this the hard way when I was writing a game. I was in play mode, didn't realize it, and for like an hour I was messing around.
Oh, no.
Like, oh, I'm hitting play. Oh, let me stop the game, and everything disappeared.
Oh, no.
So what I do to protect myself now is I go Edit, Preferences, Colors, and on the play mode tint, I change this to some just god-awful color. Where's the picker? The picker. Does the picker show up?
We can see the colors changing.
Hold on, let's try this again.
On the example or whatever.
That's weird. Oh, there we go.
There it is.
All right, so I'm just going to change it to red.
Nice.
Because now when I hit play, I know I'm in play mode.
Oh, nice.
Any change I make, I know will be lost. Right? So I recommend doing that.
That is smart.
That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really how easy it is. And we can show a really quick example. It'd take like 3 minutes to add a treasure chest and have our character pick it up.
Let's do this.
Let's do a little bit of scripting. All right, so I already have an asset that I'm going to use. I'm going to use this little treasure box. You always got to have a little treasure box in your back pocket,
No, for sure.
So let's just drag that up into my scene. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to bring it just in view here. Okay, so we have a treasure box. Now what I want to do is when I run into it, I want to pick it up, right? So if I try to do that now, Unity did everything else for me. I should just be able to run over there and pick that baby up because look what I did with Unity.
All right.
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't quite work that way, right? We can't get all that for free. So now we have to actually start scripting some stuff. What we want to happen is whenever we run into this chest, we want to pick it up, right? Maybe we pick some points and keep count and whatever your rules are. So to do that, we actually need to start scripting something. But before we can do that, we need to detect a collision with this object.
Oh, okay.
So this is where we start getting into components. Now there's all kinds of components. In this case, we're going to use what's called a box collider. Now this box collider is going to be added to this object. So let me see if I can just. I'm going to zoom in. So this box collider, you see this little green triangle around this object, this little rectangle here? I said triangle, green rectangle. That's the collider. And when you add the collider, it kind of tries to size itself, but you can change that if you wanted to. But it does a pretty good job. So make sure they have sphere colliders, cylinder colliders. Pick the collider that matches your object the best.
Right, okay, yeah.
Okay, so now that I have this
a ball or something, you don't want it to be a rectangle, because that
exactly. You use a sphere collider, right?
Right.
So, but besides the collider, that's just going to say I'm going to run into it and stop. But I don't want to do that. I want to know when I collide it. I want to be notified when that happens. So I need to check this is trigger button, this little checkbox here. Now I'm going to know in a script when this chest is collided with. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right, so I'm going to create a new folder because I have a little bit of OCD and things got to kind of be in their place. So whenever I create scripts, I got to put them in a scripts folder. So now I'm going to create a new script. I'm just going to use C# because that's what I used. I'll just call it the chest script. And then I'm just going to go ahead and double-click this, and it's going to open it up in your default editor. Now the tooling for Visual Studio is awesome now. It's actually included with Visual Studio. You can go to the manage your plugins, and there's a Visual Studio tools for Unity. But I've been using Mono for so long now. Mono Develop. Let me get this in my screen.
Yeah, that looks great. Yep.
I'm still just kind of in the habit of using Mono. Once you're in the habit, I'm sure I'll break into
yeah.
Visual Studio eventually, but for now I'll still use Mono.
Yep.
So here's what a script kind of looks like. When it's created, you'll have a start function and an update. And basically, the start is used for when you initialize an object. It's kind of like a constructor, right? This is what you're going to use for that. The update is called every single frame. So if you're running, 30 frames per second, every single second, I mean, it's like pop, 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 this code is going to run.
Oh,
So whatever you put in here is going to run every single second. But we don't care about that. Not at all. Not in this example. So to keep it simple, we're just going to detect if we have collided with an object, we're going to see what object that is, and then we're going to simulate picking it up, right? So because I just have all the knowledge in the world, I know that I had to add an on-trigger method here.
Nice.
Not really. Didn't just magically know. I had to go look at the docs and read the APIs to know to do this, right? So really suggest reading the docs.
Right?
Yeah.
I just saved you how much time,
Yeah. Just read the docs, because you don't get IntelliSense for knowing to add an on-trigger enter method to listen for an event collider. Yeah. So, and I also know that this takes a collider object as a parameter. Now I'm going to do a check. I'm going to say, hey, if that collider's game object, if the tag of that game object of the collider is player, and we'll get to this in a second, then we're simply going to destroy the game object. Oh, hold on, Brian. What the hell did you used to say? You confused the hell out of me. Yeah. Okay, let's walk through this. Basically, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, whenever something collides with that chest, this is going to execute. That collider object is going to be the parameter. Now, the object colliding with that collider, that's the collider.gameObject. That's the object that collides with the collider. Now, we've all used the tag property. Every one of us. If you've written code, you've used a tag property. And what we're going to use this for is to identify this object. So I'm going to go back into my IDE. I'm going to select my first-person controller. And in my inspector, you're going to see this little tag right under the name. I'm going to drop that down. You can see there's a number of predefined tag names that are really common when you write a game. One of them is player. You can add custom tags if you want, but we're going to use the standard player tag. So I've tagged this object. So now that we've tagged that object, if I go back into my script, I'm checking if it's the player. If it's the player, now I'm going to destroy the game object. Now this game object is the object that this script is attached to. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this chest script, whoops, and I'm just going to drag it on to the treasure box. So there's the chest script right here. Okay, so if we did everything right, when I run into this chest, it will disappear. And it will even disappear in the hierarchy because we're in play mode. Boom, it's gone. Right? So we picked up the chest.
Very cool.
That's all it was. Now, when you start adding points and things like that, you just add the code that would handle that type of scenario. And that's basically all it does. All that happens now is you add more stuff to your game logic becomes more complex, and you start adding more code.
That's really cool.
That's the basics. That's all it takes to write a Unity game. And then when you're ready to deploy, you'll just go to your build settings. You'll pick a platform, which you can see here. You have plenty to choose from. Select a platform and build. And package up your game and sell it.
That's hot.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's really simple. Like literally when you tell someone how simple it is, oh, it can't be that easy. No, it's really that easy.
No, this is really cool. I'm on excuse me, I'm on Unity3D.com's website. Unity powers Assassin's Creed identity. You know, just some of the things that you can do with this it just seems so cool. So now, obviously, a little disclaimer here: there are a lot of these cooler things come with the Pro version. You got to pay for it, but I mean, it does make sense. I mean, I could see someone or a group of someone's being able to definitely make their money back from releasing these games online. This is really neat looking stuff.
So I have a question for you, Brian. How easy is that to deploy then?
It's just as easy. Let me share again, and let's just deploy it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my build settings. I'm going to add this scene. I guess I better save it first.
All right.
Probably a good idea.
We'll just call it main, my scenes folder. Since I'm on a Windows 8 operating system, I'm going to switch to Windows 8. See, Windows. Whoops.
Windows Store.
Yeah, wrong one. Sorry, I saw the 8 there.
No worries.
We'll do the 8.1 SDK, and we'll just keep it there. And I'm going to hit build. It's going to prompt me for a folder. I'll create a new folder here. I'll call it build. And we'll let it compile. And what it's doing now is it's creating a Visual Studio solution for me right now.
Wow.
That is pretty slick.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't take long. It's not a big game.
Just lots of trees and grass.
Lots of grass. We put a lot of damn grass on the ground.
Yeah, that was a lot of grass on the ground there for sure.
Okay, cool. So there's that. So I'm going to drag this over. I already have a Visual Studio instance open. So I'm going to just drag this project over. Oh, freaking 8.1.
It likes you, Brian.
Oh,
Yeah.
Microsoft, get rid of this. It's annoying.
Yeah.
Let me develop locally as much as I want. Right?
Yeah, until you publish, who cares?
Yeah. There we go.
Look, you have it until Christmas.
Yay! Such how often I write for Windows 8.1.
Right.
Okay, now that we have this, I'm not on an ARM device. I'm going to change this to an 86. So here's my Visual Studio solution. I can now debug this on my local machine.
Very cool.
Wow.
So I'm going to hit debug. Let's see what monitor this is going to pop up. Running a little slow today.
Oh, no worries. So just to reiterate, though, as you can see, so it's got Microsoft, Sony, Qualcomm, BlackBerry, Samsung, Nintendo, Oculus Rift, Intel. I mean, that just, you know, that really does speak to a really broad market.
That's a huge market. That covers just about everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know how smoothly this is coming over the wire, but here's our game.
Wow.
Running on my Windows 8 machine now.
And you pick up the box.
And I picked up the box.
Yes.
Sweet.
Ding, 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 ding. He has money.
That is awesome.
Or she, whatever. No, that is really cool. I like that a lot. And that's with Unity. Again, that's unity3d.com.
Yeah. So let's talk about Prism for a minute or two. And why don't you give us an overview of Prism and what it does and does not do for those desktop developers in our midst.
Yeah, actually, I have some slides that's going to help.
Oh, look at that.
So,
man came prepared. Love that.
Yeah, well, you know, Prism's kind of hard to explain. Even in person, it's hard to explain because a lot of people think it's an MVVM framework, but it's not. It's not an MVVM framework. You don't have to use MVVM with it. You know, Prism sits a lot higher in your architecture of your application than just MVVM. This is actually for architecting applications, right? Your software in general. So this is like your typical application design. So if you're in Visual Studio, right, you have that solution, and in that solution you'll have a main project, And you'll probably have some other like class libraries or control libraries or these little projects in there that you use for your app. For the most part, you have every view and all the code in your main project for your application. And when you want to add new functionality, you're adding a new folder to that. Right, so Prism is different. When you go into a Prism app, this is more what it looks like. Right? We're still in Visual Studio. We still have that solution, but now all our main project has is a shell. It's a master page. It's a template. That's all it is. And this master page has areas that you define that you will start injecting these views into from unknown sources. You don't know where they're coming from, but it's going to handle it just fine. So now you take all that functionality that you had in your main project, and you pull them out into their separate modules, right? That's the term you use is a module. There's separate projects or assemblies inside Visual Studio. And then you start separating out these, what I like to use the term major functional areas of your app, right? If you think Outlook, Outlook has contacts, mail, calendar, right? We have these big, massive groups of functionality that can exist on their own by themselves. So if you think of your app that way, you can start separating out these concerns of your app into separate projects. Now your teams can work on them differently, simultaneously, across the world, wherever you're at, right? Disconnected offices. And then what happens is when you bring everything together at runtime, you ready for this? I worked hard on this. Boom! Your views from those modules are injected into those regions, into those areas of that template that you defined, right? So it's much, much more than just MVVM, right?
So we've taken MVVM and almost brought it to the MVP platform, right? Model View Presenter.
Oh no, you can use MVP with this. That is a view concern, right? When you're talking those patterns, that's on the view level. This is on a application level.
That's even better. Okay, gotcha. So we're totally separating every concern.
Right. So imagine you have an app where you want to control functional areas of your app. This guy, he's a CEO and he has access to all this functionality. This guy, he's just the mailman and he can only see this. Well, now you can write this code to actually, provide this functionality and inject this functionality based on user role.
That's cool.
Right. When you release your app, you don't have to release the whole stinking app. You just deploy one more assembly, and you have all new functionality without impacting the rest of the system. Nothing else is impacted.
That's really nice.
Yeah, you don't even have to build the other system, the other part of the system. You only build and deploy one project.
That's really cool. That's very powerful.
Yeah. So.
So what do our viewers need to do to utilize Prism?
Okay. Well, in order to do that. Well, I like this analogy right quick. So I like to say, This is your app before Prism, right? There's a bug in there.
For our audio listeners, it is a box of random busted-up looking Legos. Like somebody went through Lego Town and destroyed it, like Godzilla style.
Right. So what Prism does is this is your app on Prism.
Oh, it's like New York City.
Right. It takes all those messy Legos and it builds nice buildings that, their core functionality is standalone. They stand by themselves without impacting anything else.
Nice.
Right.
That's cool. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so what I want to talk about a little bit in the next 15, 20 minutes is the core building blocks of Prism. Now there's a lot to Prism, but I'm going to cover the core building blocks, which is your bootstrapper, a shell, some regions, modules, and everyone knows what a view is, so we don't even need to talk about that, right? So let's just go ahead and build a very small Prism app.
Perfect.
So, like we mentioned in the beginning, I'm a WPF guy, so this is going to be a WPF application. So I just created this new Prism app. Well, actually, it's just a WPF app for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new NuGet package. I'm just going to search NuGet for Prism. And it should be the first one. I'm just going to install that. Accept. And Prism 5 is the version that's out now. And then Prism uses a lot of other concepts and patterns, such as inversion of control. And to achieve inversion of control, we're going to use the dependency injection, and we're going to use the Unity container for that. So I'm going to add prism.unity extensions, because this Unity extensions is actually where the bootstrapper I'm going to use exists.
Okay.
Now, Gus, you've been developing software for a long time. You probably know what a bootstrapper is, right? Can you just kind of, what is it?
It's the part that you execute first to set up all of your references to allow the rest of your app to function properly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Right? So I'm going to create this bootstrapper. And, I added that Unity extensions because I'm going to use the Unity bootstrapper that ships with that. And then we're just going to implement one little method called createShell, and we're going to return container.resolve. I'm going to use the main window as the shell.
Okay.
And this resolve of T is actually an extension method of the Microsoft practices.unity namespace. So now we'll resolve that little thing there. Okay, next. What we want to do is there's a method we want to override, and what this is going to do is going to initialize our shell. So, come on, not modules, sorry. There it is, initialize shell. But what we want to do is all we're doing here is we're going to set the current main window of this WPF app to our shell. Then we're going to show it. That's all our bootstrapper is for now. Now, because we're using a bootstrapper, and if you're not a WPF person, we're going to go into the app.xaml. And in the app.xaml, this is like your program.cs if you're a WinForms guy or person. The startup URI basically tells the WPF app what window is going to launch first. Well, we're not using that. We're using the bootstrapper to configure all this. So we're going to delete that, and we're going to go into our code behind, and then we're going to override our onStartup. And the onStartup is easy. We're just going to create a new instance of this bootstrapper. And I got to learn how to type a little better. And then we're going to run it. So what we've done here is we have created a shell. So theoretically, I should hit F5 and we should get a window pop up. Oh, good, it worked. Okay, doesn't look like much, but this is where the magic happens. We have a shell, and when you start creating your Prism app and you have your shell, you need to start defining what's called a region. Remember, we talked about what a region was. It's basically a placeholder that's going to contain content that will be injected into it from some unknown source. And this container, or this control that you'll use as a region, has no idea what it's receiving, right? It's just a dumb placeholder. So we need to add a namespace, Prism, and it's in the codeplex.prism schema. And I'm going to use a content control as the region placeholder. Now, under the covers, what's going to happen, so before I get ahead of myself, let's just go ahead and make this a region by giving it a name. That's a region. That's all I had to do. I made that a region. That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, under the covers, there's a object called a region adapter. That what's it's doing is it's taking the incoming object and it's adapting it to this content control or any control that derives from content control. And people familiar with XAML will know that a content control has a content property. So all this adapter is doing is saying, oh, hey, object. Okay, I'm going to set the content control.content property equal to you. That's all it's doing. That's all the adapter does. Prism also ships with an adapter for items controls. So if you were to make this an items control or a list box, it would automatically work. But it doesn't ship one for, say, stack panel, right? Or if you have a custom docking control you might be using from, say, like Infragistics, right? Let's say you're using their docking control. You would have to write your own custom region adapter to basically say, oh, okay, hey, view, you're going to go in like this. This is how you're going to be adapted to this control.
Nice.
Okay, so you can have as many regions as you want. They just have to be uniquely named. That's it. Unless you get into scoped regions, which is out of scope of this talk. Okay, so we have a Prism app. Doesn't do anything, but we're done with it. All that's left is to add what's called a module. So once again, I'm going to add a little folder because of my peculiar ways. I always like to add my modules in a folder called modules.
Go figure.
Yeah, I'll just call this module A. Doesn't really matter. Now, let me just slow down a little bit. I'm going to do this one more time because I want to point something out. And actually, did I make that a... Yeah, I created the wrong type of app anyways. So let's remove that. Normally what people do when they create a module is they'll add a class library, right? Which is fine. You can totally do that. So let's just do it this way. I'm going to add a class library. Everything will work just fine. The issue comes is when you want to start actually writing code. I'm going to right-click this and say Add. Look at what I get. What are my options? A Windows form, a Windows user control, a Windows component. I do not care about these things when I'm writing a WPF app, right? So when I create my modules, I always create, whoops, new project, a WPF user control library. Now what this does is when I right-click and go Add, now I see, WPF window, WPF page, WPF user control, resource dictionary, right? These are the things I care about when I'm writing a XAML application. So let's add our NuGet packages back to Prism. We are using Prism. And we also need Unity. Oops, didn't mean to do that. We'll install Unity because that's our container. Okay, I'm going to delete this user control here. All a module is, all it takes to make a project a module is a single class. And the only thing this class has to do is implement an interface. So I'm going to say module A implements iModule. Now this is a pretty complex interface, so bear with me. Whew, man, I know, sorry.
All right.
Code we had to write.
Complex.
Okay, we have a module. It doesn't do anything, but we have a module. So the next trick is letting our Prism app know about these modules. How do we know, how do we tell this Prism app that this module needs to be registered and initialized and all this stuff? Well, now you can come into a concept called a module catalog. And Gus, I know you can tell me what a module catalog is, even though you've probably never used Prism.
It has to be like a container, right? Just a list of items that are registered so that the component knows what it can use, right?
Exactly. A module catalog is a catalog of modules. It's a list of modules. And you can get this list many, many ways. You can hard code it like we're going to do in our demo, but in a production app you probably won't do that. You can do it with an app.config file. You can get it from a directory. You can get it from a XAML file. Or you can say, you know what? This is security, so this is hard-coded. This one comes from this directory. These modules come from this config file. So you can mix it up and create this aggregate catalog as well. But for our purposes, we're going to keep it simple. All right, so I'm going to create a module catalog. Call it cat. Equals new module catalog. Oops. Add our using here. Let me do this. And then we're going to return this catalog. Now the reason we haven't added anything yet.
Do you need to do new module catalog?
Oh, I thought it did new.
There we
Okay.
go.
So we're going to do this the easy way. I'm just going to add a hard reference to the project. Okay. Now in a production app, you might not want to do this unless it's for like security or login or something like that. You probably would. But this is basically creating a hard dependency on a module, which is kind of goes against what you want to do with Prism. With Prism, it's all about loosely coupled. You want to separate your concerns. And everything's a dumb module that exists on its own. Now I'm going to take this catalog. I'm going to say add module. Type of what I call it, module A.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's what I call it. So this is the type. This is the name of the class that implements the iModule interface. Okay. Now to prove that we're hitting that, whenever a module is loaded, the initialize method is invoked. So I'm going to hit F5 and we should hit this breakpoint. Boom, we have a module. It's loaded. What's that mean? I don't know yet. But for now, we know that the module, the assembly, has deployed with the app, and the Prism app is aware that this module exists. So to demonstrate, let's throw a view in there. So let's add a new user control. Let's call it view A. And we'll just throw something in here. How about a button? For me. So we have this button. Imagine this is some very complex view with all kinds of cool logic in it. We have a concept in Prism called the view composition. And what that means is how Prism composes the views in your app. How do your views come in? You have three different ways to achieve view composition in Prism. You have view injection, you have view discovery, and then you can use the navigation framework. We're not going to be talking about navigation today. We'll limit it to just view injection and view discovery. Now, view discovery basically says, remember that region we created? Mm-hmm. Let's go back to that main window. This region. What view discovery says, it says, hey, I'm going to register this type, this view A type or this type of view with this region called content region. And whenever that region, whenever that placeholder is ready, it's going to create an instance of this object and it's going to show it for me automatically. Right? Now, in order to do that, we need the help with a couple of objects. So I'm going to go back to my module here. And actually, let's see. I'm going to have to add our container. So I'm going to add our iUnity container. Now, you can use any container you want. I want to point that out. You do not have to use Unity. You can use Ninject or structure map or whatever. Doesn't matter. You can use whatever you want. Then I also need a region manager. Okay. Now the region manager, as you might guess, is responsible for managing all the regions in our Prism application. So what I'm going to do is I got this little snippet I saved because I use this all the time. I'm just going to copy this over. I got another snippet because I write this code a lot. This is where you're going to have base classes to kind of manage this for you. I used underscores before. Okay, now that I have a hold of these guys, which I didn't mean to put them there. I meant to put them in my CTOR. So we will move this. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh no, I had that right. You guys, come on. Where's my real-time debugging guys? What's going on? You guys getting lazy on me?
Well, Gus was on it for a second, and then it sounded like a tank was driving around right outside my door.
Yep. So, okay. So now that I have a container and I have my manager, now you're probably asking yourself, where on earth does this come from? Well, as I mentioned before, Prism uses inversion of control, right? So what it's doing is it's using the container Unity, and it's automatically creating these objects for me. So those listening, if you're not familiar with what a container does, the simplest explanation I can think of is think of a dictionary of types. And whenever you ask that dictionary for a type, it's going to automatically create it for you and just give you an instance. So you don't have to write, region manager equals new region manager, view A equals new view A. You don't have to write that code anymore. You just register your objects with your container, and then you say, hey, container, give me this object, and it will create it and give it to you. And you can say, make it a singleton, so whenever I ask for it, I get the same instance every time. And that's exactly what these objects here are. They're singletons. So if I ask for a container, a Unity container, or a region manager anywhere in any of my modules in my app, I will get the same instance because they're singletons no matter what, unless I specifically create a new one. Okay? So now that we have these objects, our Unity container and our region manager, now we can start messing with getting our views in here. So first, let's just use view discovery. Gus, do you remember what view discovery was?
You actually want me to remember something? Wait, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't remember. There it is.
Okay. So I put you on the spot and you failed miserably, just so you know. I'm going to call you out every time I see you. I'm going to see you at VS Live in Vegas, aren't I? I'm going to make fun of you.
Possibly not. We'll see.
So remember, view discovery says, hey, whenever the region is ready, create the object that's registered for it and show it automatically. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to say, I'm going to get the region manager and say, register this view with this region. So we're going to start out with the region. I believe I called it content region. And then the view. This is going to be a type of view A. Okay, so let me double check I named that right. In a real app, these are going to be constants.
Yep.
You're not going to be putting magic strings in there. Okay, that looks right. So I'm going to run the app. Now the expectation is we're going to see a big button just show up. There it is. There's the view. It just magically showed up. I didn't have to do anything for it. I didn't new up any code. I didn't do anything. It just showed up. That's view discovery.
Really super cool.
Oh, it's amazing. Now, let's talk about view injection. View injection is the opposite of view discovery. View injection says, I am going to be responsible for everything. I'm responsible for creating the object. I'm responsible for registering it with a container. I'm responsible for shoving it inside the region when I'm ready. Okay? So let's start by first registering our type with our container. Now, if you had an interface, maybe you called it iViewA, your registration would look like that. So for example, you see how we're asking for an interface iUnity container in our constructor here? You would be asking for iViewA. But since we're not using interfaces for this example, we don't have to worry about that. And technically, we don't even need this if we're not using interfaces, but we'll leave it there for good practice's sake. So now I'm responsible for creating this view. So I'm going to say, hey, container, go ahead and resolve an instance of that view A for me. Now that I have that view A, hey, manager, go ahead and grab that region called content region. Oop. Sensitive. You have that region, go ahead and add that view to it. Now, I'll run the app. Same result, different approach. Right? So when you're thinking about when do I use one over the other? Well, view discovery, you're probably going to want to use them. You're going to use that whenever you want something to just automatically show up. Think like navigation or core areas of your app that will always be there or need to be there immediately. And view injection, think of maybe I'm responding to user input. A user clicks a button and I want to show a view, right? So we have a Prism app. It's not much, but this is all there is to it. All that happens now is you add more code, more views, more logic, and your app grows. Now just consider this. While I work on this module, my buddy over in Bulgaria can work on the second one, or whatever. Your team can now work simultaneously on features without impacting another. All their tests are separate. There's other concepts to help you communicate across assemblies. like event aggregation, commanding, things like that, which are really cool. Navigation, every app I build with Prism uses the navigation framework. It's amazing. I really wish it was in WPF because it is so much better than WPF's really bad navigation it has. Heck, Windows Store apps navigation suck. I mean, this is amazing, the navigation framework in Prism. But that's all there is to it. It's really a really powerful framework that I never write a WPF app without it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It looks so much easier to handle. And what I like about it is all the modules are self-contained. So you can code a module, just some type of a frame, a displayer frame, right, to test your things, and then just ship it out as just a DLL or an assembly.
Oh, yeah. And I have examples where on my blog, if you go to brianlagunas.com, I have a blog post showing where you have a running Prism app, and then you drop an assembly into a folder while the app is running, and it just automatically shows up, boom, right before your eyes.
Cool. And this you could use this with AutoFac or any of the other containers, right?
Yes, it does not matter.
Okay.
So if we go back to the Bootstrapper, you see I'm using Unity Bootstrapper.
Yep.
This is just a Bootstrapper that was written for us, by the Prism team.
Mm-hmm.
All you would do is let's just peek into this right quick. You would just write your own class that derives from Bootstrapper and register your container with it.
Oh, easy enough. Look at that. That's really cool.
And the source code is available, so you can just copy and paste and just replace, iUnity container with AutoFac.
Yeah.
And then just fix the syntax differences.
Oh, cool. That's easy enough. That's simplistic. Okay.
Yeah, to give you an idea of kind of what you can build, here's an app called IG Outlook. This was built with Prism, and every one of these, you see mail,
yep.
You see contacts, calendar. These are all different modules.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and so
how crazy does that look, man? That's just like Outlook. It looks gorgeous.
It's just like Outlook, and so what we have going on here is 3 different regions. We have a toolbar region at the top, or for the tabs, right? Your tab items.
Yep.
So your ribbon, I'll call it the ribbon region. On the left side, you have this Outlook menu region, and then in the center here, you have a content region. Now think about this for a minute. Watch what happens to the ribbon tabs as I move away to contacts. It changed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the property changed.
Well, not because the property changed, but keep in mind these are 3 different regions with 3 different views that have no reference to each other. But yet, I can go ahead and say reply on this email and pop up using a dialog service a new window to reply to that email.
Mm-hmm.
That ribbon has no knowledge of that view. How does that work? Prism. That's how it works. Commanding, event aggregation. We use these patterns of separations, and we can write these very easy to test, easy to maintain, scalable apps.
Nice.
Yeah, really nice. That's a time saver right there. Is what I see.
I can't tell the difference anymore between what's in WPF and what's in Prism because I use Prism so much. If I'm writing a normal WPF app, like for a demo, I'm like, oh crap, that's not WPF, that's a Prism feature.
Yeah, I hear you, wholeheartedly. That's really awesome. I'm glad you showed that to me because I actually have a guy writing a WPF app, and I'm going to send him to your blog tomorrow.
Oh, even better yet, you can send him to my my Pluralsight courses from Prism.
I can do that too.
There you go.
But yeah, as far as my demo goes, I mean that's basically the basics. All that goes from there is you just get more complex logic, and everything else is the same. Now you create a pattern for your whole team, and you're a lot more efficient, and hopefully your code's a little better.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. So, everyone, if you want to comment or contribute on the presentation that you saw, or if you want to see more from Brian, don't forget to go ahead and check out brianlagunas.com, or you check him out on Twitter at Brian Lagunas. So, Gus usually asks these awesome questions at the end, towards the end of the show, which are looking to the future and looking to, towards what can we expect from tech and all that kind of stuff. But what do you see as the next kind of hot thing in the tech space, in the programming space?
I think Xamarin is really hot right now. I think Xamarin makes sense for a lot of current .NET developers, or C# developers, I should say, to get into mobile.
Okay.
The funny thing is even with Xamarin, this is kind of, you may agree with it, but even with Xamarin, when you can write, iOS, Android, and Windows Phone apps,
Mm-hmm.
you probably won't be writing a Windows Phone app. You'll just be concentrating on iOS and Android.
I know. It's awful. It's awful. It's like they're trying. They're like, all you have to do is this, and you're like, I don't know. There's no incentive for me to do that.
Yeah, I don't mean to be bad on them. I don't want to bash them, but I'm just.
Well, no. Yeah, the market share is just not there, and that's what the tough thing is. I mean, it's one of those things where, it's kind of like the BlackBerry scenario. I mean, you're not, at least not on my part, and it doesn't sound like on your part, you're, telling people they're dumb or whatever for using those services. It's just there's not enough to justify the time set aside to creating and supporting not just the creation of, but the continual maintaining of those applications.
No, I mean you're dead on right there. I mean, just because Xamarin is awesome, I think it's going to pick up some steam in the coming year, especially with a lot of new stuff they're working on. Xamarin Forms. I don't know if you've checked out Xamarin Forms, but that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's this whole aspect of you can share a lot of code, but you still got to take that time to share that code and test it and make sure it works properly and make sure the UI is right for the Windows Phone, because you're sharing this code and you got to maintain it and features, and you got to make sure it makes sense to write for the platforms of your choice.
Right. And let's face it, Apple's where the money is.
It is. And Android has the largest market share out there, so those two are your money makers.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
the only
Gus.
thing I was going to say is Apple people tend to spend more money than Android, though.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
But if you're an enterprise and you're dealing with trying to target mobile for your associates or your business people or whatever the case is, usually more than likely they're going to have either to Android or iOS. They're just unfortunately not going to have a lot of Windows phones out there.
Right, and also with the future, WPF. There's been a lot of buzz about it lately. The new roadmap came out. Although I could argue it's not really a roadmap, but more of like a release notes with this is kind of what we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to seen a more in-depth roadmap, but you know what? Something's better than nothing. There was a video interview by Jerry Nixon with the WPF team, Hari and Uni. Great video, great guys talking about WPF, the future WPF, and basically they said if you're writing a desktop app, WPF is what you should be using.
That's interesting. That is very interesting. Well, hopefully we see that with Windows 10 it'd be not a thing at all, and you write it, you can target multiple, like you said, and not have to necessarily worry about it being a phone or tablet or hybrid. Because
even there, an argument can be made. I can make the argument. So let's just talk universal. Let's just talk universal. Windows Universal. You have the Surface and you have a Windows Phone. And you want to share all this code. You're probably going to have to put a lot of thought into that, because I'm not going to be sharing a view from my Surface app, from my Store app, to my phone. It's a different device. I fit so much more information, a much more richer interface on the Surface, on a Store app, than I can a phone. So my view model, my logic, the services I'm calling are larger and have a bigger impact on the Surface device, that I have to worry about, battery life, screen size. My view models are much smaller. My objects are much smaller on the phone. So when you're going to have to think mobile first, phone first when you start sharing, and you might start actual partial classing your objects, your classes across those. But even the story for shared, the way people are trying to sell it is not going to work. You're not going to share one view across both platforms. They will be different.
Gotcha.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep. Okay, well there you go. Let's just no, let's just put the nail in the coffin. No, so that's interesting. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. So what can we expect from you in the future? What do you have coming up? What do you have going on over the next? Well, gosh, it's towards the end of the year now. So looking into next year.
Yeah, well, I am done for the year. That's for sure.
Nice.
I have done my fair share of traveling this year. Next year, I've got talks into VS Lives, and I'll be at the Dev Connections, and I'm going to build for sure. I'm going to skip the old TechEd event. What's it called now? Ignite.
It's called Ignite, and it's in Chicago this year, which is odd.
Yeah. I might submit a talk there, but other than that, unless I get accepted, I'm not going to go. It's changed quite a bit. And did you know the original name of this event? What is it? The Microsoft Unified Technology Event?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, yeah.
You realize that says MUTE, right? That's the acronym MUTE.
Yeah. Yep. Hopefully it kicks off. It should be kind of interesting to see what they have to say. That's all I'm going to say.
But no, if I get accepted for a talk there, I'll go to that. But I'll definitely be at Build. I haven't missed one yet. And then
Build, I heard the dates were announced.
Yes, they are. I'm watching the list for registration because that sells out within a couple hours. So you better be on top of that if you want to go.
Yeah, I've got a thing. I think it's the last week of April, right? Doesn't that sound right?
That sounds right.
Yep. Okay.
And then Ignite is the week right after. I mean, it butts right up to it.
Yep. You're right. Yep, that's correct. I plan on being at Build too, by the way. I haven't missed it for the last couple of years. I hope to be there again this year. So.
Nice.
One of my favorite events. So anyone listening, you should really try to make it if you're into the .NET space.
I totally agree. I definitely think it's the event of the year. All the people, all the players, all the product teams, great information, good networking, the whole bit. I mean, everybody's there. It's a fantastic event.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And I can't wait to do it this year. And hopefully, JJ, you'll be able to come too.
That's the plan, sir. Me and Kev.
Let's see if we can't get that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had one question really quick, JJ, not to interrupt.
No. That's what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Brian, you work with the Boise user group and the Code Camp. Are there any dates or anything like that set up for this next year yet, or is it too early to ask?
Oh my gosh, we do have a date. It's in March, and you're gonna be mad at me, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
That's okay. We'll get it from you offline, and we'll definitely put it with our show notes, just so that people know. Yeah,
it is. We do have a date. We have the facility already scheduled at Boise State University. It's where we have every year. We had 700 people last year, so we're expecting even more this year.
Awesome! I can't wait. Hopefully, I can make it to that one as well.
I hope so.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I've never been to Boise, so I'd like to go. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Boise, to be completely honest.
That is cool.
It's my hidden secret.
Right.
Good. That's good.
Let's put it this way. I moved from Hawaii to live in Boise.
Okay.
Wow.
Not really sure what to say to that.
Yeah, me neither. I'm speechless.
Yeah. So, Gus, what do you have going on? What can people expect to see from you?
Nothing. I'm just working. Work.
Work.
The
Okay.
CodeCast every Wednesday of December, except for the last one. We're going to take a little holiday hiatus. The whole group has worked really hard this year, and we're going to take the week of Christmas and possibly New Year's off, and then we're going to come back with a vengeance next year. But I wanted to mention that we do have a couple of interesting guests coming up this next month. I'm going to start. In no level of popularity, but Julie Smith is coming on to talk BI, SQL, and other things, and she's from Data Chicks, if you follow that on Twitter. Yeah. Fantastic person I met in Knoxville. Really, really smart, intelligent speaker. Should be a very, very good interview. But we also have Scott Hunter and Mads Christensen coming on. I have no idea what Hunter's got to say, but it should be interesting. And Mads is going to come on and talk about everything Mads, which could be about 18 different things. So watch for those coming up in December, and then we're going to kick January off again and see where we go from there.
Absolutely, it's going to be phenomenal. And people who want to be more involved with all the different shows that we have the Tech Informist, we have CodeCast, which is this show, we have the STL Tech Talk podcast, we have the STL Tech Talk website, we have the website for this show and what things that are going to be revolving around this, and we're going to expand on that, and we're going to have more conversations about developing and different links and helps, kind of like the different Stack Overflows, maybe GitHub, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe. So be paying attention to our Twitter feeds. I'm at JJ Hammond Music, and Gus, if you can see his down there, it's at N_F_E. So that's
just because I have to be difficult.
Just because he has to be difficult, you know. That sounds like my wife when she explains me to everybody. She knows he's just the difficult one. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, so Brian Lagunas, thank you so much for being on the show again. We truly appreciate it. It was really cool you talking about the two different things, which were two different things. I mean, completely different, but really, really cool. And was so glad that you took the time out to come on the show and talk with us. And hopefully we can have you again on in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, definitely, I would love to come back on. Maybe talk about some Xamarin Forms next time, or you know.
That would be hot. Yeah, absolutely. That would be hot. And I think very timely if we have you on towards in the springish time.
Yes, totally agree. Totally agree. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So thank you to our fans of the show. Thank you for your love and support. So to all of our fans, we love and thank you for support of the show. So from the entire CodeCast crew, good coding. We're out.
Thank you, guys. We're out.